You know what? We haven't done one of those lessons in a while. Let's start off by doing a lesson. TV Classroom Lesson 2 now available. Sure, why not? Can we zoom out? Over here. Mr. Edogawa's TV Classroom, the unconscious, is just there. The second of 10 lectures. Oh my god. Not sure how interesting these things are, but my only tie to this is Mr. Edogawa from Persona 3. I'm just curious, you know? Let's do one of these lessons. Viewing this program will end your open session of Persona 4 Golden. It's recommended that you save your game first. So wait, you're gonna kick me out and I gotta just go to the main menu?
Mr. Edogawa's TV Classroom.
I'm just transported back to Persona 3. Hello there everyone, it's time for Mr. Edogawa's TV Classroom. Everyone loves Jungian psychology, an invitation to you that you don't know. Is it Jungian or Jungian? Probably Jungian. Today's installment, the unconscious is just there. Do you remember the last lecture? You're not already just glossing over it, are you? Hehehe. I actually did forget. This was like... I don't know, it was early on in the playthrough when we did lesson 1. Now, let's begin the class. Cyrus Etar Bessinar. You've heard me say young this and young that, but thinking back on it, I never explained who Jung is, did I? So this time, I'll give you some biographical details throughout the lesson. Carl Jung was born in Switzerland in 1875. By the turn of the century, he had begun his career as a psychiatrist. He became a doctor who counseled people with mental illnesses. At the time, psychiatry was still in the very early stages of development. But there was one effective method of treatment known at that time. That method was hypnosis. Through the use of hypnosis, Jung and his fellow doctors were able to treat their patients' illnesses, mental illnesses, in fact. While under hypnosis, the patients displayed sides of themselves that had never been seen, as well as an alternate personalities. So where do these hidden sides and other personalities come from? That became the question du jour. Where are they hiding, essentially? If man could be aware of all the aspects of his mind, there should be nowhere to hide. But as it happened, there was. The conclusion that the psychiatrists came to was that there existed an area of the mind that people are not aware of. That is, of course, the unconscious, the opposite of the conscious. And that is how doctors like Jung first discovered the existence of the unconscious in those days. I'm sure many of you know, but the one who contributed to the most to the discovery of the unconscious was Sigmund Freud. Freud could be considered Jung's mentor, but unfortunately we don't have much time in these lessons to discuss the relationship. The unconscious was discovered by a group of extraordinary men. For now, just remember that fact. Now, let me ask you, when do you think of the unconscious? When you think of the unconscious, how do you feel? I don't feel anything. You treat it like air then, something you never really need to pay attention to. Well, perhaps your feelings about the unconscious will change after these lectures. If you tell me it's there, I feel vaguely like it is. But in daily life, it's hard to believe because you can't sense it. However, Jung and the others claim that you can detect the unconscious in your daily life even without hypnosis. One way is through slips, clinically known as parapraxes. These things like a slip of the tongue or forgetting to do things fall into this category. You've been in situations where accidentally called someone such as your teacher or mommy, right? No, never have. What you meant to say was Miss Seiko, but something else slipped out. The unconscious is closer than you thought. Another way to detect the unconscious is in dreams. That's easy to see, no? Typically, one dreams of things that are not possible in the real world. You may have surprised yourself before with dreams of things you never experienced, haven't you? They really were beyond your imagination, weren't they? Something your conscious mind could never have come up with. Yes, dreams are quite close to the unconscious. Dreams are an important subject of study in Jungian psychology. We'll go over that in another lecture. As a psychiatrist, Jung considered the unconscious to be a big problem. Why? Because he considered it to be the cause of mental illness. This is how he saw things. In a healthy mind, the unconscious was in control, reigning in the unconscious. For his mentally ill patients, the unconscious broke free of its reins and ran amok. Hearing it that way, you might think the unconscious is a bad thing. But that's not quite how Jung saw it. An uncontrolled unconscious taking over is a bad thing, yes, but the unconscious itself is not innately bad. What led him to say this, you might ask? His observations as a psychiatrist led him to realize that the cause of mental illness was actually on the conscious side. When you suppress your emotions too tightly or work too hard, or stress yourself to your limit, the unconscious makes its move. Essentially, when the conscious mind becomes overtaxed and unbalanced, the unconscious mind comes out as if it is to stop it. The unconscious compensates for the conscious when the latter overextends itself. Good lord, these conscious and unconscious and all these words. Seeing this way, the unconscious definitely seemed like you'd want to have. Its role is to balance the mind. Now then, so far we have learned to view the mind as divided into conscious and unconscious halves. Next, let's talk about you. The you of the conscious mind is referred to in Jungian psychology as the ego. This too is now a common term, which makes things complicated. But for purposes of this lecture, when I say ego, it will carry the Jungian meaning. Or meaning, rather. The ego is the center of the conscious, and in most respects is the mind, but it is only you in the conscious sense. The domain of the ego does not extend into unconscious. This will be a key point later on in our studies of Jungian psychology. So let me ask you again. When you think of the unconscious, how do you feel? It's scary? I don't feel anything? Mad respect? I still don't feel anything, sir. That answer does make you sound like a big shot, but from what I'm sensing, it seems the lecture is a bit overwhelming for you. That worries me. Oh no. Well, pick up on what you can, I suppose. Essentially, we are residents of the conscious, so our thinking is biased towards it. We'll take the conceited view that we are the masters of our own minds. But in truth, the mind is nothing but a tiny conscious working on the support of the unconscious's massive energies. It's also raining outside. because it's monsoon time. If you forget that, I'm sure you see now. Well then, our time is up. Next time, I'll cover the amazing disposition of the mind as advocated by Jung. So ends today's lesson. So we've gone through 2 lessons so far. And yeah, I mean, not really learning a bunch, honestly. I know that the only thing that I know is this Jungian psychology. Like that's kind of a theme, as it says here, a theme behind the Persona series. But I'm gonna be honest, before playing Persona, never heard of that ever. But I do like to do these just because, you know, Mr. Edogawa's from Persona 3, played Persona 3 before, and, you know, any bit of, like, Easter eggs type thing I want to show off. So even if these things aren't that interesting, or I have no idea what the heck I'm reading, just reading it, we'll do it. Because, who knows, some of these lessons might get better as we move along or something. I don't know. Maybe he talks about Persona 3. It's possible.